don't waste your time with normal New Year's resolutions. How about some sexy ones? That's what we're going to talk about today. Hi, my name's Dr. Marianne Brandon, and I'm here with my husband.
Hi there, I'm Dr. Abraham Morgentaler, and we are the Sex Doctors. So, Dr. Brandon, great to see you.
You too.
Yeah, and New Year's is coming.
It is. I can't believe it.
Yeah. So, most people are busy making New Year's resolutions. They're going to do all these things right.
Exactly.
Yeah, and but as the Sex Doctors,
since that's who we are,
as the Sex Doctors, maybe we can come up with some ideas for people that might give a little twist on the standard New Year's resolution.
I think it's a great idea. And first of all, everybody knows that most people don't follow through with their New Year's resolutions. But as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't even matter, because if you have a conversation with your partner about one of the things we're talking about today, I don't know what you're bringing up, but at least I know what I'm bringing up. It'll be helpful. So even if all that happens is one conversation, you've pushed that ball forward, no pun intended, in a way, right? But maybe you actually can make a commitment to your relationship, to your sexual relationship, which really, we've said this before, but sexual satisfaction pays off big in terms of relationship satisfaction and life satisfaction. So that means that when you and your partner move your sexual relationship into a positive place, your life's going to feel better.
Oh my goodness. I can't wait to hear what your suggestions are.
Before we start, a small disclaimer. The Sex Doctors podcast is not a substitute for medical or psychological advice.
Welcome to the Sex Doctors, featuring Dr. Marianne Brandon, clinical psychologist and diplomate in sex therapy, and Dr. Abraham Morgentaler, renowned urologist and expert in sexual medicine and testosterone therapy. Together, they bring you expert insights into sex, intimacy, and relationships. Let's dive in.
I believe in miracles. I'm going to take notes.
Okay. Well, you actually don't need to, but that's okay.
All right. So why don't you start?
So one that I want people to think about is taking turns initiating sex, because so often, even when people are really enjoying their sex lives, they have no issues about sex, there's still one person that primarily initiates sex. And that's just ultimately not a good strategy. So everybody likes to feel wanted and loved. So taking turns initiating means you don't really have to change anything in your sex life. Just recognize that if your partner initiated last time, now the ball is in your court.
Very good.
And so that sort of allows everyone to have a certain sense of responsibility for making their sex life great, and allows everyone to feel that gift of being wanted.
Great. Love it. Okay. So my first is,
Yes.
I think people should commit to trying something new sexually in their relationships. Yeah. And one way to do that, what does that mean? One way to do that is their books, their online literature about techniques. There are ways to touch your partner that you might not know about or that you might not have tried.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be sometimes a small thing that may matter a lot to people.
Mm-hmm.
And sex is a funny thing because a lot of people don't talk much about what it is that they like, what turns them on, what feels good.
Mm-hmm.
And so, or they're just not comfortable talking about it. So you have to guess sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But, you explore, you try something new, and who knows what's going to develop.
Absolutely. One of the things you've said before that I think is really interesting is that the human body can handle a lot of touch, like intensity. And I thought that was a very important comment, because so often a complaint in my office is that their partner touches too delicately. And people are like, oh, the genitals, we should be so careful. But, sometimes that's true. But it's also the case that people can handle a lot of pressure, a lot of intensity. So when you say experiment with different ways of touching, that's what comes to my mind as you've talked about that. Like as easy as it can be to inflict pain on the genitals, it also in touch with just pressure doesn't necessarily hurt and actually could feel very good, right?
Yeah.
So that's
try a new technique.
Yeah.
Learn about it, read about it, try it.
Yeah.
Good. You.
Good. Okay. I would say, bring vulnerability into your sexual experience as much as you can.
Oh, that's beautiful.
People hate, understandably, feeling vulnerable because it makes them feel exposed. They feel like they're open for abuse.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is, the vast majority of people feel like vulnerability is essential to having a passionate sexual experience.
Love that.
So,
That is really something. I love that. Yeah, good.
so
Okay.
wait, can we tell them what that means a little bit?
Yeah, please. Yeah, I mean, you and I get it, but yeah, go ahead.
So, for example, eye contact. As simple as eye contact can feel very vulnerable for people, but amp up a lot of intensity in the experience.
Right.
Masturbate for each other. That can feel extremely vulnerable, but that's actually a homework I've relied on a lot with my patients, is to have them go into corners of the bedroom and masturbate for each other, because it really can make people feel exposed, but after that they feel often, closer and like a level of connection that they hadn't felt before. Or do something as simple as watch porn together. That may not be that simple really, but people can feel embarrassed watching porn. It can make them feel vulnerable, like they feel like they like something or they don't, and it's showing on their face, and it makes them like anxious. But that too can bring people together, amp up passion. So vulnerability is a critical element of passion. So oftentimes, like I said, people avoid what makes their sex best, which is vulnerability.
Great. Okay.
Your turn.
Mine, in a completely different vein, take care of yourself physically. Now, everybody says one of the most common New Year's resolutions is, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to exercise. But here's the thing. So actually being fit helps you as an individual, and it's usually a turn on for your partner too, right? And so what does that mean? So fitness can be like get yourself a personal trainer, right? Buy yourself some, or sign up for some video series on exercise. But it also means people have all sorts of medical stuff, aches and pains, joint issues that they kind of put off. Try and get them fixed.
Yeah.
Right. So people may know that they've got this troublesome elbow or knee.
Right.
And there are treatments for it. Like, let's see if you can't do it, because often those aches and pains interfere with sex. Right. So that instead of being active and vigorous, sometimes people just are passive and kind of just lie there. They're not able to do much.
It also makes you feel less sexy when you're sciatica's acting up. Like,
Absolutely. Now, there's some things that may not get better, but there are some things that our listeners and watchers know they need to be getting attention for, and they're not doing it. Yeah. Okay.
Great. Okay. Communicate. Now, I hate to sound like a magazine article, but here's the thing.
You never sound like a magazine article. The magazine should start sounding like you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
But, communicating about sex is like a necessary ongoing discussion. Just like communicating about how your kids are doing in school. Ongoing discussion. You don't do that once a year, right? You do that regularly.
Right.
Or communicating about finances and what's going on in your checkbook. You don't do that once a year. You talk about it. So sex is like that. It's super important. It requires ongoing dialogue. The more you do it, the less intense it is. So nobody really likes talking about sex. Like they don't like to talk about finances either. Like it's not something that people necessarily look forward to.
Yeah.
But it certainly makes life better for everybody once these kinds of conversations happen regularly.
Yeah.
So this isn't just like once a year, but what?
So so when you talk about communication, communicate what?
Yeah. So, there's always something to say. You can say, well, what are you liking, or what would you like to do different sexually? And if your partner's,
That's a simple question.
Yeah.
And nobody talks about that.
No. So, and if your partner says, I don't know, which may be very true, they might not know, say, well, like, okay, in the last time we were together, what did you like best?
Yeah.
What did you like least? There's that answer. Like, even if there wasn't a great moment or a horrible moment, there was something that was best and least good.
Yeah.
So start with that kind of discussion.
And how about is there something you'd like me to do that you'd like?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that would turn you on.
Absolutely. So these
Something I'm not doing.
right. So these discussions, do your best not to just sort of come after your partner. If you haven't had this discussion in 5 years or something, there's probably several things that you're not liking, but you also haven't given them feedback.
Right.
So you got to take responsibility for that. And rather than focus on the negative, I highly recommend that you focus on either what's positive or what you want to try different, but don't rake your partner through the coals. I can't tell you.
No, you got to be kind.
You got to be kind. The
Kind.
stuff I hear people say, it really is sad. Like, you
Right.
can't be mean about this.
Right. So it's not communicate to complain, right? It's communicate to try something better, to get
Yes.
to something better.
Yes. Yes.
That's the goal.
That's exactly right. And if you've, had a conversation regularly over a period of time and it needs to be discussed more directly, fine. But
Yeah.
certainly don't start your conversations that way, and see if you can't work with positive feedback for a while first.
Positive. So you could say, you could say something critical, like say, we always do it the same way. It's boring. Or you could say, wouldn't it be great if we had a little variety in how we do things? Mm-hmm. Right?
That's great.
It's the same general sense of where you're getting to.
Yeah.
But one is positive, forward looking, and the other is a criticism that the other person is going to feel defensive about.
That's right. And I can almost guarantee people that they don't realize the mixed signals they're getting off, and their partner isn't ignoring those signals. They're just having a hard time understanding them.
Yeah.
That's almost always the case in some way.
Yeah.
So, it's really 2025 is the year of sexual conversation.
Oh my. Oh my.
That's what I say.
Yeah, it's the Dr. Brandon year. You heard it here first.
That's right.
Dr. Brandon's New Year's resolutions. Okay, well, listen, my finale is commit in the new year to playing out a sexual fantasy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that's for me. That's a suggestion for you. But who knows?
So, but, where do they even begin with that? Do you have a suggestion about that?
Oh, I think people have fantasies.
Okay.
I think they know what their fantasies are. And if they don't and they want some inspiration, read some erotica.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So porn is tough because a lot of it isn't
Very
anything that anybody really would play out
Yeah.
in person or in life.
right.
I suppose there could be some scenarios like the pool guy. If you want.
I have to tell you, my friends do talk about their pool guys. They really do. They really do.
I never had a job as a pool guy, but maybe I should have. I don't know. Maybe I missed out. But there's plenty of inspiration out there with books, audio tapes.
Yeah.
And even even in regular movies, and maybe listen, porn can give you some ideas. But we've talked about this before, that porn generally is not realistic.
Right.
People don't have those conversations that way. People's bodies don't look that way. So the experience is different. But there could be all sorts of things that may be fun. That in general, I think the reason people don't play out fantasies is that they're embarrassed.
I think that's true. And you know what I suggest to people when they say that, which is all the time, I say then agree with your partner. You're going to take on someone else's persona to play it out.
Yeah.
Like actors and actresses
Yeah.
do. Well, I should say actors do.
Yeah.
That's what they do all day long.
Yeah.
They're playing out a persona.
Right.
So just acknowledge that that's what you're doing. This isn't you.
Right. That's a great way to do it. And it's almost like cosplay, right? Like,
Yeah.
you could wear a police uniform or have your partner wear some version of a police uniform or whatever it is, right?
Right.
I mean, Spider-Man doesn't really do it for me, but for some people, maybe that's the right thing. Wear a wig, wear a hat.
Exactly. This could
Right.
be so
So I like
simple.
what you're saying. Like you can pretend, if it's embarrassing, and it often is, you can pretend to be somebody completely different.
Right. And agree with your partner that that's what you're doing. So everybody knows that this is not your real personalities there in the room. Great.
Dr. Brandon, I think 2025 could be a great year.
Yeah. Especially if people watch our podcast, because we're going to take a lot of care into giving them good information.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Who knows how great it can be for some people if they listen to us regularly.
That's right.
Right. Well, we've come to the end of another podcast of the Sex Doctors. And on behalf of Dr. Brandon and myself, we'd like to wish you a wonderful, healthy, and happy 2025 and full of good sex.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yes. Cheers.
All right. See you. Bye-bye. We'll see you on another podcast.
Thank you for listening to The Sex Doctors with Dr. Marianne Brandon and Dr. Abraham Morgentaler. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and tune in next time for more expert advice on sexual health and relationships.
I believe in miracles. Where you from? You sexy thing, you. I believe in miracles. Since you came along.